Welcome to Bless Us, I'm Oscar the Saxon. I'm a couple of weeks late with this once again. There's been a discussion between Mr. Aversity and Mr. Sensei on should you draw your bow with the arrow on the left or the right side. This is not a new topic, but it's been revised by Shad. I've seen a few comments, people saying things like, "Oh, so now I know that in medieval times they always had the arrows on the right hand side, so that's the way it's got to be done." I'm absolutely fine with that because for as long as I can remember, I have always shot with the arrow on the right hand side of my bow. Now, to clarify, I'm going to be talking about the thumb and the knuckles, not the left or the right hand side, because quite a few people there shoot the wrong way round. And what they're referring to is the arrow being on the right hand side, the thumb side. Okay? As I said, this is not a new discussion, but for the first time in my life, I actually had the idea 2 weeks ago to try it, because I've been telling myself, why, like Shad claims, should I have to draw differently just because the arrow is an inch or 2 or 3 centimeters to the side, depending on the thickness of your bow? So I finally got round to trying it. Unfortunately, I did not film it because I took 3 shots, this being the result of the second one, and after the third one I said, this is dangerous, I'm never going to do it again. I'm confined at the moment, I can't shoot outdoors, I'm going to shoot indoors. The day after I finally understood what had happened, and this is the result.
Right, so due to the restrictions we have at the moment, there's nowhere where I can actually shoot outdoors at the moment. So I stand in here and shoot out onto the balcony. This box is normally up against the cupboard. For this experiment I moved it closer, and instead of standing here as usual, I was standing here directly beside the door. Shorter distance, you never know. The first arrow I released made a huge clanging noise. My first assumption was that my bow had hit the glass door. My daughter came rushing in asking what on earth had happened. I had no idea. My bow was undamaged, the glass was undamaged. I had no idea what it was. The arrow hit the box about here. The second arrow I released did not make that huge clanging noise, but there was a loud splinter. The arrow was sticking roughly at this height on the very left hand part of the box. The arrow's end with the feathers pointing directly at me. The shaft, however, sort of protruding the side of the box at this angle, and it was broken in between. That was annoying. I just put that down for I don't know what happened. The third arrow I released and it literally ping-ponged between these 2 pieces of the wall 2 or 3 times, and I said, right, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore. Now in the meantime I've discovered on the glass, as far as you can see it, there is a line here that I assume wasn't there beforehand. Now this line has the right angle, well, perfectly here, so you can see, heading straight towards the right height of the box. And I've also discovered this line here. So I'm assuming the first arrow actually hit the glass here, or when I drew the arrow out, the tip had broken off. I've not found the tip so far, but the arrow had lost its tip. It went into the target all the same. The second arrow, I assume, was this one here. That caused the actual arrow to splinter. Still went in the box. The third arrow, I have no evidence here. There are some spots, but nothing where I can say, oh yes, that is definitely where the arrow hit the wall.
So what happened in my experiment is this bow only has 30 pounds. I got it a couple of years ago just to practice style. I didn't bother getting extra arrows. These arrows are designed for 60-pound bow. They're too stiff, so when I release, they don't go straight ahead, but they go off to this side quite a bit. The first arrow hit the door, bounced off, lost its tip and hit the target, accidentally in the middle. So all I saw was the arrow goes where it's supposed to, and I heard this huge noise coming from the door. I didn't know what was wrong. I looked about to see if anything was damaged, didn't find anything. I tried my second shot. I wasn't standing exactly the same position, which is why the second shot then probably hit the door frame further on. The third one also went wild. Basically the arrows are going off at this angle and not straight ahead. This worries me because if I shoot with the arrows on my knuckle, this is not a problem. Obviously, I'm holding my arm further to the left, but all the same, we're talking about what medieval archers were doing. Not all, but quite a few of these would have been standing in castles trying to shoot through arrow slits, which if your arrows already go wide in the first meter, is going to be very difficult. So I would question, is this really plausible that these archers would shoot like that? The other point being, as Shad I think pointed out in a different video, the peak of archery culture in Europe, the English longbow in the 100-Year War, the arrows used by the archers were mass produced. The archers did not have arrows suited to their specific bow. They were given government property basically that was all unified. So yes, they could practice how to shoot with those arrows, but they had no guarantee that all arrows had the same stiffness, and they would have to be able to compensate for this. Yes, would they then choose a method that endangers their accuracy if this is a thing that other people have? Now, I still don't understand why, or I didn't understand why Shad was saying all he has to do is draw differently and it works out, until he explained it's a question of tilting the bow so that the arrow doesn't fall off his thumb. He has to tilt it that way, which means he has to draw differently than if he has to hold the bow like this when it's resting on his knuckles, and then he draws as he was used to. Now, on the topic of tilting your bow, I have this to say. Right, now to start with, I'm going to kneel down. For one, I think you can see me better this way. And the second point is this way, Jack, your bow doesn't hit the ceiling. Now you can expect me to tilt my bow like this, not to hold it up straight. And you know it's impossible for the arrow not to fall off if I tilt the bow in the wrong direction. Now, to clarify, I am not pinching the arrow. There, I think you can see that my fingers are not pinching the arrow, and yet it doesn't fall off. So the point I'm trying to make is this. Yes, the arrows are too stiff for the bow. If the arrow is too stiff, irrelevant on what side it is, it will tend to go off in the direction away from the bow when released. If the arrow is too weak, then it will curve around the bow more. The arrows are too stiff for this bow, yes. However, if I shoot with them on my knuckles, I do not have to compensate for them very much whatsoever, like I would have to compensate if I wanted to shoot with them on my thumb. I said, I'm not doing this again as long as I'm indoors. If I've got a huge wide open space, I might actually repeat this and just see how much of a difference it makes if I'm shooting 50 meters or something like that. If anyone out there has a high-speed camera, it would be a great thing if, without endangering yourself, your equipment or anyone else, you could actually film in slow motion, you know, your arrow leaving the bow, how it flies with the arrow coming from your knuckle or from your thumb. That would be a great support because I'm genuinely interested. I don't see any necessity to tilt the bow or to draw differently just because the arrow tip is a little bit to the side than it would be on the other side.